Our readings today should probably unsettle us a little bit. They speak of the end times. Our first reading from the book of Daniel talks of this time unsurpassed in distress. Our Lord in the gospel talks about this tribulation, and after this tribulation, the sun and the moon will stop shining, stars will fall from the sky, and Jesus Christ himself will return on clouds in power and glory. The end times, the apocalypse, what is that going to look like? And the fact that it's preceded by a time unsurpassed in distress and a tribulation. When we talk about the end times, we can think it's just so final. And I think that for me, that's what's unsettling, is that it is so final. There's nothing after. But that's not how we think of it as Christians. The end isn't this absolute final point with nothing after. The end in Christianity always brings a new beginning. It ushers in a new beginning. Take, for example, kind of how we're situated right now in our liturgical year. Right? We have this weekend and next weekend. And after next weekend, this liturgical year is done. It's the end of a liturgical year. And Advent begins the following weekend, and a new year begins for us as Catholics. With every end in Christianity brings a new beginning. In just the same way, in the book of Daniel, it implies that after this time unsurpassed in great distress, the dead will rise from their graves. And some will go to everlasting salvation, and some will go to everlasting horror and disgrace. A new beginning. What new beginning are we preparing for? And I know that we're preparing not to go to that new beginning of everlasting horror and disgrace, but that of everlasting salvation. And so how do we prepare for these end times, whenever they might come? How are we to be prepared, and what can we be doing now? And in short, guys, the best way to prepare for the end times, the best way to prepare for any tribulation, the final time of distress, the final battle, is doing the same thing you prepare for any tribulation, any battle that you encounter right here and right now in this life. And I want to focus on two of those ways today. That as Christians, as Catholics, how might we approach every single battle and so prepare ourselves for that final tribulation so that we can be assured of that new beginning to everlasting salvation? First is preparing ourselves with God's mercy. Preparing ourselves with God's mercy. Because that is one of the most effective weapons against any battle. Be it a spiritual battle, be it an emotional or psychological battle, be it a physical battle, God's mercy is one of the greatest weapons we have in any battle. This past week, one of our teachers asked me to come over and hear the confessions of a few of our school children. And so I did. And something unbelievable happened. Students kept passing by where I was hearing their confession. And so more and more students kept wanting to come to confession. I mean, one, they're getting out of class, so that's always a plus. But it's not an easy thing, right, always for people to go to confession. That there was this great desire and this growing desire of these school children to arm themselves with God's mercy. Now, I remember what one of the students said after their confession. It was a little post-confession commentary from a third grader. And this third grader said, "Father, it just seems sometimes like, it just seems sometimes that there's a war going on around me. Father, it just seems like there's this war, this battle going on around me." And then she just kind of fell silent, reflected a little bit, and then she looked up and she said, "Father, that war is over now, and Jesus won. That war is over now, that battle is over now, and Jesus won." I mean, my jaw hit the floor. The depth of this third grader, of understanding what just took place in her heart through God's mercy. And that is the effect of God's mercy. That is the effect of God's mercy. And absolutely, I encourage everyone on a regular basis to go and partake of that mercy in the most direct way through the sacrament of confession. So that for those times where we have fallen in battle, that God's mercy would forgive us and restore us into that right relationship with Him and lift us up. But also, God's mercy doesn't just work retroactively. It doesn't just work on past sins and past mistakes. It exists and strengthens us as well going forward for those future battles, again, be they spiritual, emotional, and psychological, or physical. God's mercy exists to strengthen us as we go forward and encounter the various temptations of any day. And this is going to be one of those ways that just as we prepare for battles here and now, this is one of the greatest ways we can prepare for that final tribulation, that final time, the end times, is through God's mercy. And secondly, is doing every day what we're preparing to do this Thursday. Fostering gratitude. This Thursday, we will celebrate as Americans Thanksgiving Day. And I know for many of us, it's one of our favorite holidays. It is a beautiful holiday where we as a nation gather with our family, our friends, to give thanks. And as Christians, that's something we should do every single day, is fostering a heart of gratitude and arming ourselves with that. Not a heart of cynicism, not a heart of desolation, not a heart of that lacks hope or a despairing heart, but a heart of gratitude. And in fact, that's what we do every time we gather for Mass. Every time we gather for the Eucharist. The Eucharist is a word that in Greek means thanksgiving. That one of the things we do as we gather for the Eucharist is we make this grateful offering to God through His Son, Jesus Christ. This is one of the best ways that we can arm ourselves for battles today, tomorrow, and that final tribulation. Is every day taking time to articulate in prayer what we are grateful for. The many blessings that God bestows upon us. What are we grateful for? God's mercy and a grateful heart will get us through any and all battles, be they what we're going through right now or that final and end battle. And that will prepare us for that brand new beginning of eternal salvation.